Should be. We are live. We are live on that. Let me give it that because that's really, and let me give it that. Too many things popping up. Hello, Danny. Finally, we are live. Let us hope that this one actually works. Take five, as we say. And can I just say, mega congratulations.
Thank you.
It's brilliant. I will admit I have not read every single word, but I have skimmed as hard and as fast as I possibly can in the last few days since it arrived. And
Good.
it's practical. It's a font of information. It's really nicely written, and it's an important read, and not just for people who've had cancer. I think actually for everybody else in a way.
Thank you very much. I don't expect you to read every word, but I'm really grateful you've skimmed it and you're giving your opinions. And it's important that the right person picks up the book. That's what's really important for me. As a cancer survivor, I've navigated menopause after cancer for so many years now. And what's most important to me now is connecting with the people who are at the beginning of their journey. They might just be finding out that menopause is part of their cancer treatment, or that perhaps their cancer treatment made them menopausal. And it's really picking people up wherever they're at. And sometimes people come to us 15 years down the line with horrendous symptoms and they still don't know where to go to for help. And so it doesn't matter when people come for help. I hope the book will help answer some of their questions whenever it's needed for them.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the things that really resonates in the book is consistently the lack of information that people aren't given, basically, for want of a better word. It seems that basically, and I can understand this, but sort of explain to me what the process is of, we have this like, oh my God, you've got cancer. Everything goes into focusing on the front end of it. Um, what actually happens when you have cancer and why does menopause become an issue? And
You
then
know,
we'll move on to why it's not talked about.
and it is such an important question because for a long time I kind of thought it just affects breast cancer survivors because I am a breast cancer survivor. And so I thought maybe it just affects people after my type of cancer. And we understand that there are many different types of breast cancer. But actually, it affects anyone who has had chemotherapy, who may have had radiotherapy to the pelvis, anyone who's had surgery to remove the ovaries. That could be a hysterectomy or it could just be removing of the ovaries. And anyone who is an anti-hormone therapy, so where the active cancer therapy actually strips you of all of your estrogen. And so when you think that the majority of cancer patients will receive chemotherapy, that's a huge pool of people who may be affected by the menopause as a result of it. And in the book, Mr. Talaulika, and I know we will talk about him in depth, writes so beautifully for a woman who is younger, who has lots of eggs still, her ovarian function might regain after chemotherapy. But for someone in her later 30s, that might be it. And permanent menopause might be a result of that chemotherapy. When I went through chemotherapy, I think my doctors told me that my periods might stop. I just had no idea that that also meant the menopause. And
Yeah.
when I speak to lots of our younger patients now, they say the same. They say, my doctor said you would be entering the menopause, but they didn't know what that meant. They didn't know other symptoms could come with it, long-term effects of the menopause. And so I think a lot more explanation is needed. I don't know when is the right time because we all work so differently in terms of when we're ready to receive more information. But most people tell me they wish they had more information.
Yeah, and that's actually a question I'll sort of come to sort of later on when we get into that. In in doing this, you've sort of gone through. You've talked about your journey in the beginning of the book, and in a lot of it, you talk about the stress of the diagnosis and the wanting to take control, and the sort of focusing on various things in life that you can get your teeth into to make you feel sort of at least sort of normal again. Does that what did you go through, and does that ever pass? Do you get to a point where you actually can sort of go, oh, you know what, I'm actually quite relaxed about this now?
That's a really good question. You know, what I want to always say is cancer comes first, and then menopause after cancer comes second. However, for some people, menopause comes first. They then receive a cancer diagnosis. They're told to stop perhaps their HRT or their treatment options change. And then this is another bigger problem. But the underlying problem, or the underlying sort of complexity for all cancer survivors, is the cancer, is the worry about a fear of recurrence, is that the cancer treatment really changes in many people our physiology. And many people say to me, I've never felt quite the same. And whether that is to do to the menopause muddling its way in, or maybe that's just long-term side effects of cancer treatment, the psychological stress of dealing with your own mortality. I mean, I was 33, my twin babies were 2, and my eldest daughter was 4. And so, of course, that is going to rock on the foundations of your belief system. I kind of thought when it happened to me, it skipped a generation. I thought it shouldn't be me now, it should be the older generation. And so it sort of was a very skewed way of trying to readjust to what our normality had become. One of the things that never left me, or hadn't left me for a long time, was the fear of recurrence and that anxiety around whether my cancer would return. Am I doing enough? Has my medical team done enough? Is every ache and pain more cancer? I didn't know what my new normal was. And I wonder whether that is a common worry. And from speaking to hundreds of survivors now through our not-for-profit organisation, through researching the book, through the podcast, I know that's a real common struggle many cancer survivors face. And, you know, I now look at people like Julia Bradbury, who is so brilliant on Instagram and really sharing what she's done since her own cancer diagnosis. And I was really the same. I threw myself into every complementary therapy, into everything that was out there to try and keep cancer at bay, to try and eat healthy, to try and move. I didn't leave a stone unturned, and it was exhausting.
Yeah, I
And
could imagine.
and not everything was rooted in science and in evidence. A lot of it was driven by my fear, by thinking I need to do more, by the worry that my medical team hadn't done enough. And so I was just pushing, Googling at 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to ask Dr. Google what else I could do to keep cancer at bay. And I didn't get it all right. And there were many things. Looking backwards, I think there were many things where I could have taken a little bit of an easier approach. And now, over 10 years on, I feel much more relaxed. Will it ever properly go away? Perhaps not. But I'm definitely not as strict with how I live my life and all the things I do. So that's a good one. That's positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I guess comes in. This is the thing that a couple of people have said to me, and I'm sure you probably heard it as well. Is that when you start talking about the other symptoms that you get when menopause starts, like the vaginal dryness and the painful sex and those sorts of things, they're often met with a sort of like, well, you should just be thankful that you're alive. Sort of like that this part of your life doesn't really matter. Is that something that you found with other menopause women, when people talk about their menopause symptoms, that it's sort of like, well, that's so little in comparison to what you've been through, and then they feel guilty?
It is such a huge conversation. And when we're talking in one of our Community Connect coffee mornings, or through one of our walk and talks, is the thing that always comes up at the end. People say, gosh, I'm so glad I could chat to all of you today, because I feel like it's okay to say what I'm going through, because often people navigate cancer survivorship. They get to the end of their active cancer treatment. The whole family and everyone around them has congratulated them on completing active cancer treatment. And there is an expectation from ourselves, but also from our surrounding, that we are now back to normal, that life goes back to normal. We will return to work, we'll return to our duties and our jobs and whatever our life sort of presented with pre-cancer. And it feels strange to keep going on about it. The problem is menopausal symptoms don't go away. And although they come and go in waves, and not everyone will have every symptom forever, because they do come in waves, people feel embarrassed to talk about it years on. People feel they shouldn't be complaining still. People think, well, who is looking after me now? I'm no longer seen by an oncologist. I'm worried my GP won't know what to do with me. And so we talk about the menopause void. We don't want to bring it up because we have those feelings that our society or the people around us are expecting for us to get on with it, finally. The void is that no one really in our medical team is responsible for us anymore. And so we don't know exactly where to go for help. And so when we are then in a community where everyone has had cancer and they're navigating menopause, it feels incredibly wonderful to suddenly be heard, be seen, and to have a good old moan and to try and find some strategies that help.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, especially in this period of time, because before, basically, I will get to the different types of cancer and these estrogen positive ones and estrogen negative ones and triple negatives and things, all of those sorts of things shortly. But we live in a world, and this is what I've just written my book on. Basically, is the rise of the medical influencer and how it's changed the discussion that we're having, and a lot of that also then flows into the cancer area, with a lot of people saying, well, if you've had breast cancer, whatever it is, of course you can have HRT. But then I'd imagine a lot of the people you talk to would then go off to their oncologist and say, well, can I have my HRT then? And they're going to go, absolutely not. So we have this sort of clash of two worlds. How do we navigate that? There's a big one for you.
Yeah, you know what? The most important thing is people always say to me, does it wind you and your community up that there are so many conversations out there about the safe prescribing of HRT and how brilliant HRT is and the benefits of HRT or menopause hormone therapy for our US audience? And I think absolutely not. We have to have those conversations. Those are the conversations that are leading the way. It's really important we understand that hormone replacement therapy is a very important option for many cancer survivors. Just because you've had cancer does not mean you can't or shouldn't have HRT. And actually, for many of our younger patients, HRT is a very, very important treatment if they've been pushed into the menopause early. And many types of cancer can safely access HRT, and there's lots of evidence for it. Yeah.
As you have wonderfully signposted in this table, which is just fantastic. Actually, it's such a good thing, because I think the other thing what I think is really important about this is we often just think of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, whereas not many people think about meningiomas and a brain tumor being estrogen receptive. There are so many different types of cancers, and this table is just absolutely fantastic. So in your community, I'm guessing then you have a lot of people from these different thyroid cancers and colon cancers and everything
Of
else.
course, of course. And I think we must have people who talk about hormone replacement therapy in general and talk about the menopause in general, because it'll get us thinking as a cancer survivor, hang on a minute, they all talk about the menopause. My cancer treatment has put me into the menopause now. Let me ask some questions. And some of the most important questions will be to your medical team, am I a candidate for HRT? Because we know from our research, for the people who can access hormone replacement therapy, it still takes them an average of 2.5 years to access that treatment on the correct dose. And that is far too long. And so we know there is a big gap for those people where HRT is considered safe. And of course, just because here on the table it says HRT might be safe after your type of cancer, everyone has loads of other considerations because we have other health concerns. And so it's never a yes or no, but it's a starting point for a conversation.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's also, sorry to interrupt, but it's also really important to then say HRT isn't just HRT. There is systemic HRT and there is also local HRT, local estrogen, vaginal estrogen. It's important to differentiate. And people
That
often say to me, yeah, people say, I've been told I can't ever have hormones again, so I can't have phytoestrogens in food. I'm staying away from edamame beans. I'm not having tofu. And we really need to put a break on and say, the first question is HRT safe for me? Then it's understanding that HRT isn't all HRT is the same. Then it's understanding that phytoestrogens, for example, in food form are really great for all of us. And so just because you've been told you can't have hormones doesn't mean you can't touch anything with estrogen. So it's taking it step by step. And then the community that has been told that hormone replacement therapy isn't their first line treatment option. This is the book, because the whole book really is full of all of the other approaches as well, all of your non-hormonal approaches, also considering all of the complementary therapies, the importance of diet, the importance of exercise, the importance of stress relief, and then also the importance of saying, if you can't cope, you must still talk about HRT, even if you've had maybe a conversation with your doctor who said you can't ever have HRT ever again. Because we've received many emails from people who are suicidal, who say they cannot go on like this. They're in such dark places. People that want to stop all of their cancer treatment because of the menopausal side effects. And these people have to have help. And that is often a really difficult conversation, but it's really important people don't struggle on their own, because we receive a lot of very dark messages from people, and it's not fair to leave people hanging without a conversation.
No, absolutely. And I guess this is then, and you mentioned the team then, and feeling sort of in that void. I mean, who then do you go back to and have that conversation about informed choice with?
Yeah, an informed choice is really opening the entire toolkit that is we talk about in this book. And it was most important for me to not talk about a this or a that approach, because I don't know what resonates with the person that is holding this book at the moment. We have many cancer survivors who say, I've had so many drugs, chemotherapy, I don't want any more drugs. Even if, for example, a very low dose antidepressant may be a very good treatment option for their hot flushes. They may say, I don't want to touch drugs. And so I don't want to judge thinking the person is right or wrong, or why is she shutting off treatment options. I want to say, okay, let's look what else there might be. And depending on what that person wants to explore will depend on where you go for help.
Yeah.
So if you're still under an oncologist or a clinical nurse specialist, they are a really good person to talk to. And in some cases, people say they won't listen, they're not taking me seriously, they're saying, well, that's all you need to do, take those tablets, we can't help you, it's just the way it is, it's a side effect of your cancer treatment, and people walk away without much help. But sometimes it's having repeated conversations that really will make a difference. And so I would say don't give up if perhaps the first time you haven't been heard quite to the extent that you want to. Your general practitioner is also a really good point of contact, because there are non-hormonal prescribable options that your GP can prescribe for you. Or if you've had a cancer that wasn't hormone sensitive, for example, your GP can also talk to you about hormone replacement therapy. And people often say, where is the guidance? Where is the evidence? You know, we have plenty of evidence of safe treatment options for menopause for cancer survivors. The British Menopause Society does a really big fact sheet on all of the non-hormonal options. We often share that through our workshops. I share links in the digital handbook that goes with the book, so people can take that to their doctors and say, actually, I've read, here is the British Menopause Society fact sheet. There are non-hormonal options. Talk me through those.
Yeah.
What I would like to say is it takes time, Fiona, and I think that's the biggest problem. People think they're going to have one conversation with their oncologist, or one conversation with their clinical nurse specialist, or one conversation with their GP, and they'll know what to do, and they'll walk away with a plan and a treatment. And in reality, it can take up to a year for many people to understand what their treatment options are, to figure out what is right for them at this point in their life, right now, to then embark on that treatment and to then perhaps notice a benefit. And so all of that takes a long time. And often we guide people through programs through menopause and cancer. We have hundreds of people that come to our workshops. And it's often many months after we engage with people that they will email us and say, actually, do you know what? It's taken me 2 months to get my act together. I finally made that doctor's appointment. Now I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm feeling so much more empowered about my options. But it takes time.
Yeah.
And so depending on whether you're still under an oncologist or a clinical nurse specialist, a breast team or a gynecological cancer team or any other cancer team, will depend who can help you. And not to discount all of our amazing practitioners like exercise specialists, dietitians, people that can help out with lifestyle, because we always think we have to do it on our own. But that is incorrect guidance, I think. We deserve help medically, but also when it comes to lifestyle, we don't have to have it figured out by ourselves. It's okay to ask for help.
Yep, absolutely. In terms of, you mentioned various things before I get to the non-hormonal ones, but in terms of finishing cancer, or I mean, a lot of people will be on an aromatase inhibitor or a tamoxifen or something for quite a long period of time. Are there things then, like, I mean, can they have testosterone perhaps, or can they have? Are there other things that, you know, I'm guessing there's not a lot of point in having an estrogen at that period of time because it's going to block them. So what are your options then if you're on an aromatase inhibitor and having horrendous symptoms?
Yeah, it's really, really important to say that so many people have so many questions, and it's okay to have loads of questions. My worry is always, where do we go for evidence-based advice? Where do we go for the solutions that are then available to us on our healthcare system, whether that's private or through the NHS? And people who are on an endocrine therapy, like you mentioned, the aromatase inhibitors or tamoxifen, they work in different ways. And tamoxifen, for example, doesn't make people menopausal, but the side effects mimic the effects of the menopause or the symptoms of the menopause. But an aromatase inhibitor really is there to suck out the last bit of estrogen from your body. Even if your ovaries don't produce it, you make it in other parts of the body. And so it's really driving your levels on a very, very low. And so most people would argue there's no point in then giving back estrogen or even testosterone, which could convert into estrogen. So it's a really difficult conversation to have. Some people say, I can't tolerate this treatment. I have to come off my treatment. And we go to many workshops where people tell us they've stopped their treatment and they haven't told their doctor. And so our role at Menopause and Cancer is to ensure that if people are really struggling, to encourage them to have a conversation with their doctor and to not make these difficult conversations on their own. Some people say they've stopped their treatment, they're not even telling their partners because they're so worried about maybe being judged, or there is blame, there is fear of what is my family going to think, I wasn't strong enough to tolerate these side effects. And so there is a lot of really complex emotions. But what I want to say here is almost every other patient doesn't finish their prescribed treatment of endocrine therapy because of the menopause side effects being so much. And so if people are struggling, please know you're not alone, and have the conversation with your doctor, because before you stop, make sure that your doctor talks you through your options. And some options have a whole chapter in here. I think it's chapter 7, isn't it? On how to navigate endocrine therapy. Some options might be tweaks that your oncologist can do for you. It's might swapping you from one endocrine therapy onto another. It's maybe changing the brand of endocrine therapy. And so there are micro tweaks that can really make a big difference. And I think the most important thing is, don't think HRT is your only option. Maybe options and tweaks within your endocrine therapy can be really, really important. For us, it's really important to help people make the right decision, whether to stay on those treatments or not, and to help people manage the side effects so they can stay on those treatments, because we know these treatments save lives and improve survivorship. So it goes hand in hand. To me, it never makes sense to put millions of people on these treatments, not providing any support, and then half of them coming off it. That to me makes no sense, because we're not doing anyone a favor.
No.
And so to me, it's like, okay, there's millions of people with hormone sensitive cancer. Let's offer them these treatments. Like, talk them through what is their true benefit of those treatments and where can they go for help should those symptoms kick in. And that is most important for me.
Absolutely. There are now some, speaking of non-hormonal things, we have some new drugs on the arise, or they are now here, which are for non-hormonal treatments for vasomotor symptoms. They are being sort of tested quite now in people who have cancer. What sort of hope do you have for those?
Yeah. And so you might be referring to treatments like the non-hormonal drugs for hot flushes.
Yeah.
And there is a few coming out. Yeah, we've also had a trial already for breast cancer survivors. And people in our community are really desperate for options. And if you've been told you can't have HRT and you're suffering with lots and lots of terrible hot flushes and night sweats, a non-hormonal drug for hot flushes is going to be a really amazing option, because it really will improve quality of life for many people. Now, critiques may say it's very early on. We don't know about the long-term data on cancer patients, but also in general on menopausal women. We haven't followed people for long enough. There are some worry about liver problems for people on those drugs, so people have to be monitored. And you know what? I think these drugs, other drugs, It's the same. Nothing comes with just benefits. Everything, including HRT, including these drugs, comes with a risk and a benefit profile. And we have to weigh up what it is for us. How do we navigate that? What risk are we willing to take? And what benefit are we hoping to receive? And that's what's important. The only benefit I see without a negative is exercise and a good diet. And so
Yeah.
it's really important for people to think some things do come for free, and that is moving any way you can with whatever body you have available to you today. A good diet, if you can afford to eat a good diet with less ultra processed foods, is a free, free-ish without negatives. But with everything else, there are risks and there are benefits people are hoping. I don't want to judge what people are happy with, what risks, and I don't want to judge what people are hoping to receive. You know, for some people, one hot flush is awful, and other people are managing 20 hot flushes in a day and they can cope. And so I don't want to say what people should do. What I think is really, really important that we bring more options to people in our community. And these options will include non hormonal options. And some people are really happy and eager to take drugs that perhaps haven't been tested and tried for that long because their quality of life is what really matters to them now. And other people are really happy to take perhaps the bigger fear and the bigger doubt of exploring HRT after breast cancer because it's important to them. And that's a risk and benefit profile for them to manage. And I don't want to judge. I don't want to share my opinion. It's got nothing to do. I want to really support the person to make the right choice for them. And for that, they need evidence-based treatment options. One thing I know, Fiona, it's always the whole person we talk about, and that has been lost in menopause conversations, and that's been lost in cancer care. And I'll give you one example. Some people have really put on a lot of weight since their cancer diagnosis, since menopause, since menopause. And some of those endocrine therapies you mentioned, people cannot, they try so hard, it's very hard for them to shift weight. We've connected people with nature from Harley Street at home. We've connected people with dietitians. We've helped people with so many things. For some people, especially when they're on endocrine therapy, it's almost impossible to shift weight. I'm not saying it's impossible, but they feel they've tried everything and it's impossible. Lots of these people are now saying, I'm overweight, I've got 2 stone more. I know this is a problem for my risk of recurrence. I know this is stopping me from exercising. And these people, rightly so, want to know, what about a Mounjaro weight loss jab?
Ooh.
What about GLP-1s? What are my risks and what are my benefits? And when we talk about risks there, the risks aren't just long-term risks of taking those weight loss jabs. The risks of increased weight gain that we can't shift is also a risk. The risk of feeling suicidal, my life is worth nothing, I don't want to go on like that, is a huge risk. And so I've met so many people and I have listened so much through writing Menopause After Cancer that I will never give my opinion on any of those solutions anymore because my opinion is irrelevant. But it's really important to listen to people and to help them make a decision, because the other thing I know, no decision in menopause management after cancer is an easy one. Whether
Yeah.
people take, whether people take a new non-hormonal drug for hot flushes where we don't have 10-year follow-ups, whether people want to consider HRT, whether people want to try a GLP-1, it never just comes with benefits, and people have to take some negatives into consideration. And so it's never an easy conversation to have or an easy decision to make.
No, absolutely not. Do we have much evidence actually about Mounjaro and the other semaglutide and the GLP-1s? And I think there are GLP-2s and God only knows what else coming on now. But I understand actually they're actually around about 20 years old or so. So they're not actually that new. So you'd think that there would be some evidence somewhere. That's not something
Yeah.
I've...
When Johan Hari was writing his book, and I love Johan Hari, and he wrote a really great book on the weight loss jabs, GLP-1s. I was messaging with him, and there was no evidence for cancer survivors. I think that's changed a little bit. I'm working on a bit of research for a podcast episode, but I don't know much at the moment. I just know whether it's losing weight because we worry about having too much weight and the risk of recurrence, what does that do to us? Whether it's managing hot flushes, whether it's managing our mood, we do need a lot more research in so many areas for cancer survivors, because people always say to me, you know, everyone talks about collagen or creatine, but what evidence do we have for cancer survivors? There is always a but and a but. And so it's those questions I have tried to answer in navigating menopause after cancer. Um, because when the normal menopause conversation talks about all of those things, evidence is huge because there are so many millions of menopausal people, but suddenly you bring cancer into the equation and it's much harder to find the resources and the research. But I've tried very hard in the book with the help from so many doctors.
You have, and you're talking there about the compartmentalization of the medical workforce. How do we? Because I guess going back to the recurrent theme of women not given all the information they need. How do we make this function better? How would you like if you had an ideal world? If you had a magic pink wand and you could go out there, I'd say pink because that's the color I'm holding. Go out there and make the landscape better. What would you do?
From our latest research, we had over 1,000 people fill in a research survey with University College London Hospital. We know that the biggest problem for people is the lack of preparation. So a lot of our focus at menopause and cancer is empowering healthcare professionals to better prepare their patients of what's to come. And when we look at what is the hurdle here, it's never that healthcare professionals just don't know. It's never that they are lazy and they haven't done their research. It's always really multifaceted. Some healthcare professionals, it's really not on their radar. And so we're going to help them make menopause part of their sort of like thinking. Some don't want to bring it up because they have nowhere to refer their patients to when patients struggle. And so they keep a lid on, because they really have gone into this job to do a great job for patients. And when patients struggle severely and you've got nothing to give them, you haven't got help available for them, it's horrible. And so they sometimes don't have the conversation because of that. And often they really feel they haven't got the time. And I've got lots of oncologists now who are very good friends of mine. I've got lots of surgeons who are really good friends, and you know, they're really strapped for time. And it's often the menopause is at the end of a 15-minute conversation where they're talking about really important things. There is just not enough time. And so it's for us at Menopause and Cancer, it's now understanding why do healthcare professionals not talk about it enough so they can adequately prepare their patients, and enabling them to do so better. Because when everyone walks away a little bit better prepared, we can also then give a little bit of responsibility to the patient. It's not just the healthcare professionals' problem to then fix, because some people won't have lots of symptoms and other people will really struggle to the point that they might want to stop some of their active cancer treatment. But if every patient understood what was happening to them and understood to go back if symptoms crept in, we could really reduce that menopause void that so many cancer survivors currently face. And so it's, again, I write in the book, I talk about that two-pronged approach. You know, it's about the patient and the healthcare professional. And if we all do our bit, we can really close that menopause void.
Yeah, let's hope. You also there you mentioned you touched on it before about diet and exercise. In that, in your toolkit of a holistic approach, what do you think is it? How should people actually approach it? Is it just diet and exercise? Are there other things that they can do that are going to make themselves feel better and help manage those symptoms, or what else is in there?
Mm. It's diet, it's exercise, and it's stress. And those three pieces go hand in hand, because in the early days, I was stressing so much about what to eat and what not to eat that I think I could have had fast food McDonald's and Big Macs and what have you every single day, because the stress I put on myself to eat a certain way was there. I
Yeah, doing
wasn't
more
eating
harm than the McDonald's.
Yeah, I wasn't eating the ultra processed foods. I was eating my lentils and what have you, but I was under a lot of stress. And so stress, exercise, and diet are very interlinked and very interconnected. And people often think the best thing for their bones is just to pump really heavy weights and to eat loads of protein. But stress plays equally an important part. If you're chronically stressed, it will weaken your bones over decades. And so it's important to think, if you at the moment haven't got the energy to eat super well and to exercise God knows what every single day, you can also work on your stress response, and that will have a big impact on your menopausal symptoms. And when it comes to exercise and diet, it's very clear. The rules are there. We do have rules of how and what to eat and what not to eat after cancer. The World Cancer Research Fund is very clear on that. I don't understand people who go, well, just eat what you like, just have a healthy, balanced diet. Well, it's not that simple. We do have regulations on meat, on processed meat, on alcohol. The evidence is there. It's not just eat everything and everything in moderation. I think if people want to know what to eat, really study this in here, because we give very clear guidance on what you should be eating and what you shouldn't be eating. And the same goes for exercise. There are many different ways of exercising to help you with your menopausal symptoms. And there is also a way to exercise, or an amount to exercise, to reduce your risks of a cancer recurrence. And so to me, again, I don't want to go out there and prescribe a certain way of exercise or food to people. What's important is why. Why do you want to exercise? Is it to reduce a symptom, or is it to help reduce your risk of a cancer recurrence? Because it'll be a bit different for each person.
Yeah. You're quite big actually on the Mediterranean diet in the book in many ways. What are the particular advantages of that?
The Mediterranean diet is the only diet that has been linked with reducing some of your menopausal symptoms. And I'll explain all of that in the book. We talk about the plate, what should be on your plate. We talk about what should be on your plate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But we do know from the Meno scale, and there is a lot of evidence and lots of studies and research behind this, that people can reduce their menopausal symptoms by changing their diet and eating a certain way. And in most parts, the people that stuck to the Mediterranean diet as close as possible, those people saw a reduction in their symptoms. And the same goes for exercise as well. So it's important to think, where are studies, where is evidence, and then to see, and where am I now? Because there's no point in me saying everyone eat the Mediterranean diet if you have fast food 3 days a week. Then it's about helping you move towards the ideal diet, because every change is going to have a positive impact. We can't get it perfect, and we don't need to get it perfect.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very difficult balancing act, isn't it? You have an exciting thing coming up very, very shortly, which I hope is going to just sort of start another snowball of revolution, and that is your summit for the World Menopause and Cancer Day. It's 18th of September. What is this, and what are you hoping to achieve out of it?
Well, at one point a few months ago, I thought, could we do a Menopause and Cancer Awareness Day? And then I looked at the global stats, and Fiona, there are millions of people in treatment-induced menopause globally navigating this. And it doesn't make sense to me, as I said earlier, that there is so little support, but it also doesn't make sense to me that we have a World Menopause Day, but not a World Menopause and Cancer Day. And so we're just creating our own. It's on the 18th of September. We're going to live stream it to our global audience in America, in Australia, in Tanzania, everywhere where people are. And we've also got an evening event to mark the day in London. And it's just another awareness day like any other, but I really felt we deserved our own. And so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think that's really fantastic. Actually, it's a really good idea because it's as you say, there are millions of people all over the world. This is not a niche market. Menopause itself is not a niche market. And if I mean, there are, apart from breast cancer, there are many other different types of cancer, as you well log in this book. So yes, and many reasons for going into menopause with cancer treatments and God only knows what else. So there you go. If you in 5 years' time, where would you like to see this? Will you be able to put your feet up on the sofa and go, well, I've done it now. Menopausal women after cancer, they're sorted.
You know what? We have come a long way already. More and more people I talk to are really talking to their patients about it. There is a lot going on. I see more and more menopause clinics as part of NHS services popping up. Many come to us and ask for a bit of help. What do their patients need? And so we're really seeing the conversation have a positive impact globally. When the day when cancer survivors are asked upon maybe finishing their active cancer treatment or even during chemotherapy, when all healthcare professionals bring it up and drip feed it into their patient's pathway at different times through patients' journeys, that's when I think we've done a really good job. It's really understanding that all patients need a lot of drip feeding of this information throughout their journeys. And then I think we need a lot of money to put lots of expertise and menopause specialists with the right expertise to help patients. But the awareness and the understanding comes first, and the support will follow quite naturally, I think.
Yeah, let us hope. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dani. I'm so impressed. Yep, well done you. It's really, really, really good. And I can see how much work and how much of a labour of love this was. Well done to you.
You know what? I really need to thank all of the many, many doctors that have helped me put this together. It was really a labour of love
For
from them
everybody.
as well. And, you know, you can really see with people like Dr. Talaulika, Alison Macbeth, you know, it was a real need and a want for them to share all of their knowledge, all of their research and studies with our audience. And I'm very privileged to sort of be in the middle and to sum up this conversation and the knowledge to pass it on to people. But there are so many amazing people out there with a lot of brilliant knowledge, and it's just wonderful to give them the microphone and the platform, so that a wider audience can access their amazing expertise. So yeah, I'm very grateful for everyone who's helped me as well.
Yeah, yeah. We couldn't do it without a community of people like that. They are unsung heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for today and the conversation. And the book is on Amazon. It's called Navigating Menopause After Cancer. And I'm working on the ebook. I'm working on the audiobook at the moment. It's a paperback.
Well done you. Well, I'm very impressed. Thank you so much. And that was going to be my question of where can people find it? But now you've told them. I will let you get back to your evening. So enjoy and thank you again. And we will
Thank you,
speak
Fiona.
soon.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye, everyone.